Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the next episode in the Legends of Mario series. I know some of you probably thought this series was dead after the first episode, but I'm happy to say that it is not. And I'm even more excited to say that the guest that I had a chance to interview today was none other than the legend himself, Mr. Carlsagan42. Many of you know Carl through his epic trolling adventures, but there is so much more to Carl's story that you may not be aware of. So I am beyond pumped to share this interview with Carl Sagan. Please enjoy the second episode of the Legends of Mario series. Thank you so much for watching. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you so much, Carl, for agreeing to this. Super excited to hear your story about becoming what I'm calling Legends of Mario, and that can encompass a lot of different things, obviously. But
legendary spaghetti.
Hey, it's all legendary, right?
Still legendary.
It's still legendary one way or another. So I guess I'm gonna start with going all the way back to the beginning of your video game journey. Do you remember the very first time, your very first time experiencing Mario? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. There's two.
Okay.
One of them is going over to my two friends' house when I was a very tiny little kid. I lived in a neighborhood, and I would go knock on their door and be like, "Oh, can Chris and Liz play?" You know, it's like a little cute kid thing. And of course, what we would do is they had a Super Nintendo, and so we would play Mario 1, Mario 2, and Mario 3 eventually at their place. And oh my gosh, I remember distinctly that I did not know how to use the run button, and so. Playing that game without the run button, you can actually get surprisingly far into it. Looking back on it, I know that people kind of sometimes do these don't run challenges. I think I should go watch one of those. I haven't ever watched one, but that might be. Now I'm just thinking that might be fun to do.
You were doing the challenge before it was a thing.
Yeah,
you did the YouTube challenging stuff.
So I grew up with a Game Boy and a Sega Genesis.
You were a Genesis kid. Okay.
Yeah. So I never had an NES, and so I did not. You don't hold a run button in Sonic, and so I didn't hold a run button.
Right.
In Mario, yeah, I doubt I beat more than 3 or 4 levels. I just remember whenever there was a big pit, as it's scrolling on the screen, I would freak out more. For each new tile of pit that scrolled onto the screen, I would just be like, no, it's getting bigger. I can't get over this. I don't have a run button. How do I do it?
So did you ever discover any secrets, the warps or anything? Did you know about that? You know,
I have a vague memory of the Mario 1 warps. Yeah, I think we must have. And so this is something that I was talking to my friend about recently, but when I played games at that age, I don't know if you can remember anything like that, but it was it felt like I was unveiling the secrets of the universe.
Right, right.
Was, when I found something new and cool, I was like, this is it. I don't know what it is, but this is it. And that's how I felt. And I can't remember if my friend showed me the warp or maybe one of them discovered it, or I can't remember in Super Mario Bros. 1. But what I do remember is from Super Mario Land. So I had to go to my friend's house to use their Super Nintendo, but I had my own Game Boy.
Right.
And so I played Super Mario Land 1 and Super Mario Land 2. And have you played any Super Mario Land 2?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
It's kind of a crazy game. You jump. It's
the first
everything about it.
Super Mario Land 1 is a wild game.
Yeah,
it's a wild game.
You don't gain height from bouncing off of enemies. It just feels horrible if you play.
It's so archaic. After you've played the other Mario games.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it though. But yeah, so I remember finding secrets in those games, and yeah, it was like I was uncovering a new world. It was the coolest thing.
That was me with, I would say, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
That was we would meet at recess, the playground, and just talk to friends oh yeah, I discovered this, or and those were such cool days, like
Yeah, yeah.
remembering
I
that.
I definitely did that with Yoshi's Island as well when I ended up getting a Game Boy Advance.
So I guess that leads me into my second question. You brought up Yoshi's Island. You brought
Hmm.
up Super Mario Land 1 and 2. So some people might not know this if they just watch your Mario Maker content, but you actually have a pretty deep history of speedrunning Yoshi's Island, and I noticed you speedran Super Mario Land 2 for a bit. Um, which did you start speedrunning first, Mario Land 2 or Yoshi's Island? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was definitely Yoshi's Island. I got into speedrunning Yoshi's Island, I guess for a variety of reasons, but the biggest one is just I found GDQ. I think in 2010, what was called Classic Games Done Quick, which was in the creator of a website called Speed Demos Archive. Oh, you're gonna love one of these. Dude. Oh my god. So have you ever heard of Speed Demos Archive?
I have heard of it. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that was like the leaderboards. Like now there's speedrun.com and there's
Right.
leaderboards for speedrunning. And it used to just be like speedrunning back then was like cool video game videos. Like it wasn't necessarily so much about speedrunning as much as it was like just cool videos.
Right.
And the videos that were uploaded to Speed Demos Archive that I would watch in high school and be like, oh my god, these people are so good at Yoshi's Island and Mario 3 and all this stuff and Super Mario World. Oh my gosh, the Mario 64 ones were also some of the absolute
Was
coolest.
that like
Like
the Siglemic days?
even before, this was before that. This is
Okay, this
what
is even before
got
that.
those, like the people like Siglemic. This is what got them into it. I can't remember any of the. I wish I could remember some of the names of the people who were doing that because I have to go look at the website. I think it's still up. But like in Mario 64, you could like ground pound, to get a star, like to cancel the
Oh yeah, yeah.
animation just
Yep.
immediately. Like, I saw that, in like 2009 or something, and I was like, oh my god! And then like the backwards princess slide,
Oh
I was like, this is, and like I would tell my friends and be like, this is so crazy. You gotta try this, and then we would all go like try to do the backwards slide or whatever in high school.
that's so funny. Like I
Um,
have such a similar story with that with Mario 64. Me and my friends would
oh
like do glitch hunting, and we
yeah,
uploaded YouTube videos like in the very early days of YouTube. I think they're gone, but we were doing similar things because we would see stuff and we were just like, we have to try this out.
and so for Yoshi's Island, I watched a run at Classic Games Done Quick 2010 of Yoshi's Island, and so just to get into a little bit of I guess some personal backstory, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so I was extremely sick in high school. Um, I had a bunch of stomach problems, had a bunch of other problems, whatever. The long and short of it was I was just kind of at home and miserable. And my friend gave me his Game Boy Advance, which had Yoshi's Island on it. And it was just like, this moment of like actual happiness in what was otherwise a really crummy experience. And so that's why I ended up choosing Yoshi's Island to speedrun. Because it was just something that I could do while I was really sick.
Right.
And so I ended up just I remember I got so this was actually my first time getting a Super Nintendo. As I got a Super Nintendo for the first time in college. After that, in order to try like what I had seen the speedrunners doing, especially Trihex, with Yoshi's Island, and I had these nerve problems in my hands and arms and stuff, and it was very difficult to do like even using a computer wasn't great, but the small Super Nintendo controller was something that I could like hold and actually worked well, and whatever, it's just this small little controller. And so that's how I ended up getting into Yoshi's Island, because it was just something fun that I could do that was like really minimal impact. um and so I started speedrunning it then, and yeah.
That's
That's
so
what
cool. Yeah, I
we formed
honestly
a
had no
community.
idea.
We formed a community on IRC.
I've heard of that. This is like all
Uh,
before I start. I know like what this stuff is, but I wasn't using it.
oh yeah. We would do races on IRC, and they had like a little chat bot that would like count you down, and it would keep track of everybody's times, and you would have to type like dot done in the chat in the IRC when you were done with the race. And we would do like it was very simple stuff like race World 1 in a game, like something. That's how it kind of got started out. Was just
Right.
just race to the first boss or something. It was like really easy to get started, and it
So
was
you
just like a
started out
fun
with the
friends
GBA
activity.
version and then eventually moved to the Super Nintendo version.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Because the Super Nintendo version was the version that it's much easier for me to use a Super Nintendo controller than it is
Right.
to use the actual GBA.
Yeah.
And also it was just the version that Trihex, the like big Yoshi's
Yeah.
Island speedrunner at the time used, and so
Yep.
I just wanted to be cool like him.
So, okay, that actually kind of leads into this. Do you remember like your first live stream then, like when you
Yeah,
started?
oh my gosh, if you haven't seen these, you should just like take 15 seconds and look at some of these because they are still on Twitch from 2011. So 13 years ago, Twitch still has it. It was Justin TV back then.
You were on Justin TV.
Yeah, I was on Justin
Okay,
TV.
all right.
Well, and technically, I watched Ustream before Justin TV, and then eventually Twitch became a thing.
Okay.
That was like the very beginning, but I never streamed on Ustream. So my first stream was on Justin TV, which is now Twitch.tv, and it was in 2011. And you can still watch some of the funny Yoshi's Island clips from that, but it's basically just me on voice chat with these people that like were also just part of the community
Right.
at that time. And just there's some clips of some really silly things happening in that game where like it caught in an infinite and or I crashed the game also too.
I
One of
think
them,
I
but
actually have seen that clip. I think I did go back when I was initially
okay.
making these questions.
Yeah,
I
okay,
saw
okay,
that
okay.
clip. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that was with no, that was on, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember the capture card, but I had like biggest headset microphone, no webcam, like terrible quality, like 240p, except it was actually interlaced and wrong or something. Like it was all bad.
I doubt many people had it right back then, but
Oh, it's an easy cap. It's an
easy
easy cap.
There, another big one was like Dazzle. I think people
Yeah,
had
yeah.
Dazzles.
I wanted a dazzle, but I couldn't afford a dazzle. Like,
You had the easy cap.
it was like I had like a CRT and like the colored cables or
Oh yeah.
whatever.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Were you like nervous at all when you started, or was it just more like you were?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I hated like I that's why I didn't use a webcam, and I was only really like talking on a voice chat with friends. That's the only reason I ever would have done it. Like if I were just doing it
Right.
by myself, I never would have done it in the
Right.
first place.
So so your first stream, it was like basically Yoshi's Island related, just was
Yep.
doing that's
It was
cool. Cool.
it was like a World 1 race of Yoshi's Island.
You've been involved with Games Done Quick for obviously a very, very long time. Was the first one that you did a run at, was that 2013? Was that your
Yeah,
first
it
one?
was Yoshi's Island 2013.
Do you remember like that experience? And
Yeah. I mean, since that was sort of the thing that got me into playing retro games as a hobby and entirely, and like at that point I had made a bunch of friends in the community, and it was a really positive experience for me. And so I really wanted to go. I remember like I was so nervous and I was practicing so much, and yeah, that it was GDQ used to be very small. It was like now there's 2,500 people or whatever, and
right.
like whatever hits the attendance cap, and it's like you take over an entire hotel. But back then it was like it was at a 4-H center, and like at first it was like in Mike Uyama's basement or whatever, and then it was in a 4-H center. And it was like the first thing I had ever done like that. I was like, oh, other people play video games and
Right.
like this stuff. Like, whoa. Yeah, so it was a crazy experience. It was super fun. I remember I was so nervous. I was like practicing for weeks. And I never told you the funny thing about Speed Demo's Archive, by the way. You literally would mail them a VHS tape of you getting a speed run. And so it'd be like, I got to record level 3-1, and you would like start the contraption that records it on the VHS and like whatever. And at one point they switched over to DVDs, and so I remember mailing speed demos, getting a DVD recorder and mailing DVDs of Yoshi's Island to Speed Demos
That is so
Archive.
wild.
And that Yoshi's Island run that I did for 2013, the runs that I'd done leading up to that were recorded on DVD, and then I think you could still find it on their website somewhere. But
That's
anyway,
so wild.
Yeah,
Isn't it wild? I mean, it hasn't been that long how far technology has just even come since
yeah,
like
that was 10 years.
10 years. Like recording DVDs, like
Yeah.
that's so wild.
Yeah.
So
It has
I've
changed a lot.
obviously you've been, involved with a ton of GDQs since then. Do you have any specific memories, like favorite runs or favorite
Yeah.
moments?
I've got millions of them, so I'll just start with the first one that comes to mind,
Yeah.
and that is because I think you'll like this one too, because the early days of Mario Maker were wild. It was a wild place, and the very first GDQ where we included Mario Maker 1, we had this idea of doing, the relay race, where everybody is like, we have two different teams, and they're passing their controller each time somebody dies. And we were able to make whatever Mario levels we want, right? Like such a dream for people who grew up playing
Right.
Mario. Now you can make your own. And so me and Dan Salvato literally for context, now if you make a level for GDQ or you make a really good Mario Maker level in general, you could expect to spend like a month on it. And
Right.
like it's going to go through playtesting and all of this stuff. Not back then. Literally at the event, like the day before we're about to, show these levels live and have people play them live, Dan Salvato and I in the GDQ side room just sat down and made a level, and that was a level that they played live on stage the next day, and it was called Too Fast for Mr. Angry Wall, and it was just this like giant wall of thwomps that chases you. I think it came out great, but that was peak Mario Maker for me. But yeah, those runs ended up going really well, and now we've done a dozen of them since then. So
Yeah, they're always
awesome.
a huge hit too. Like everyone always looks forward to them, which is
Yeah,
really cool.
it's just so fun getting everybody up on stage.
And the newest one with that you and Juz just did, the troll race, that was
Finally
insane. That was the
the
most
trolls.
Oh my gosh, watching that back was one of the most mind-blowing things. Especially
Speaking of which, I did a stream. This is completely off topic. Sorry if I've
No,
done
you're
this, but,
please, this is what this is for.
Okay. I did a race like in Japanese hours very early with Waffle Smacker the other day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have ever tried going on the course search and typing in super expert puzzles and then like top rated of all time, but it's all troll levels. And we did that, and we were just pulling random from this and racing them. And we were like screen surfing each other's streams. And I think it was hilarious. And I want to do that with like 2 people, 3 people, with 4 people. So just saying, if you have any interest.
I have a lot of interest. That sounds so fun. Like watching, at first thought, I'm like, yeah, troll racing, wouldn't work too well. But then
I didn't do it.
You watch it happen, and it's like, okay, this is amazing.
Did you see the YOLO room? I love that room so much. I screen surfed Juz, and it was like, oh, I need to like go to the left into the pipe or something like that. And that was like literally they put a fake out in it so that if I screen surfed it, then I would get the wrong clue, and then I like went into a trap.
Watching Juz think he beat the level.
Yeah.
Only to realize he didn't beat the level because after watching, oh man, it was all so good. It was shout outs to all the creators for that. That was amazing.
Yes. As far as favorite GDQ memories, I got a million more if you want more.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's another one you want to talk about, yeah, please.
Well, I don't want to just for stuff that's like just my own personal favorite GDQ memories. Oh gosh. Let's see. The first time, so I have been a Tetris fan for like my entire life. And the very first time I ever saw Tetris the Grandmaster was at a GDQ. And if you've never seen that, it's like at some point they're literally, it's like going so fast and it's crazy Tetris, of course. But like at some point, like the blocks are invisible and they're still just like, okay, it's going to be this block. So this is how much I need to move it down. And like,
Oh my
so they're just,
gosh.
I love GDQ for just finding random stuff. But like some other fun GDQ memories is there, one of my favorite people who's done GDQ runs for like forever is somebody named Brosentra.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, and he did like a dramatic reading of a like Chinese bootleg Titanic game called like Titanic. And oh gosh, if you want a good time, go look up Titanic.
I will.
Uh,
I don't think I've seen that. I will. I will go. I will go look that up after
anyway,
this.
I've got a million of these.
We talked a little bit about Mario Maker, so we'll roll into that, and then if something else pops up that you want to talk about from GDQ, we can do that. But do you remember like when Mario Maker was announced, and like were you excited? Was it like a big deal to you when that was announced?
So at that time, I was playing Super Mario World, and people were kind of just developing the ROM hack scene in Super Mario World at that point. Like we had played Kaiso Mario World, which were these like really old, hard Japanese ROM hacks that now turned into, the word kaiso literally came from those.
Right.
And people were just like, wait, we can. So it used to be thought of that those were like not doable by a human, or like only doable with save states, or
Right.
only doable with a task, a tool assisted speedrun where you slow everything down and pause everything. And it was a speedrunner by the name of Dram55 and I were sort of like, wait, we can actually speedrun these and try to beat these. And so I was just getting into that right when Mario Maker was announced. And so it was like, I don't know if you've ever tried to use Lunar Magic, but that's the program that people use to make ROM hacks in Super Mario World. It was kind of like what you had before Mario Maker. And it's extremely annoying to use. It takes forever. And then Mario Maker was announced, and a lot of the people who were in that sort of ROM hacking scene, I mean, I'm sure it was like a gradual process, but at least for me, I was like, wait, this is going to have so much better tools than what we've been using to try to make our Mario levels.
Right.
And I think the person who showed this the most was Panga. Panga had been a ROM hack creator for a long time, and like immediately when Mario Maker came out, he started making these crazy Kaiser levels that were just like what he had been doing in Lunar Magic with Super Mario World. And immediately it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be super fun. Like I just remember like the ability to slide on bombs was like blew my mind for an entire week or something. And I was like, I gotta do this. So my favorite level back then was Bomb Voyage by Panga, just because bombs were always like, they were kind of boring and
Right.
in non SM64 games. Right. Super Mario 64 had epic bombs like the bomb clip.
Right.
At
Right.
the start. Yeah. Anyway,
I swear you're reading my notes, because we're going to be talking about Panga in the next.
Oh
in
no,
the
I
next
don't even have
question.
I literally don't have the notes open,
No,
and I haven't read through them. Yeah.
So yeah, obviously we're gonna talk about troll levels and stuff, because yeah, that's a love we definitely both share. But yeah, like a lot of people, like you were saying, I don't know if they realize, like, you used to play a lot of Kaizo stuff too. Like, you're mentioning the Kaizo hacks, Kaizo Super Mario World, and then the Kaizo Mario Maker levels. And I actually did some insight into your channel, and the very first video uploaded to your YouTube channel is you playing Panga's Skyzo.
Yeah.
So yeah,
those were the things
talk
that got
about
me into
those
Mario
memories
Maker.
of those early Kaizo levels.
Yeah, that was such a fun time, because what makes Kaizo interesting or cool, I think, is like you take a game that so many people know and they sort of know the mechanics of, and yet you're doing things with that game and with the mechanics that you wouldn't necessarily have ever thought was possible, or maybe you thought was possible, but like no one's ever going to do that, except you do 30 of those things like all back to back, and that's the only way to beat the Kaizo level. And that's just, so it just has this like really fun, cool factor to it. And And so yeah, a lot of those early levels were it was so fun to be building Mario Maker levels back then because nobody knew what was possible. Like, the Dan Salvato comes in and drops P is for pain. I don't know if you ever played that
Yes,
one.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's like at back then you're like, oh, maybe I can jump off of this P switch in this little split second before it crunches, and then it falls out from under you. And Dan is like, what if I make an entire level and just take that to the extreme? You're like, colliding with the P switch midair and knocking it over so that then you could jump on it again, like right as it's falling off the level. And it was just all
Right.
of this crazy, wild stuff. And people would be discovering something new. Like, now everybody's seen 1,000 shell jumps, but it was
Right.
like, wait, you can do a shell jump. You can do a double shell jump. You can do a backwards shell jump. You can do a midair shell
Yeah.
jump. And it was like, oh my God, people would discover this stuff. And then it'd be like, what else can we discover? What levels can we do with it? And it was just an extremely fun time for Kaizo, which is why I would love to see Nintendo make any other Maker game, because it would be that exact same thing where it's like this fresh experience of discovery. That's the part that I always like the most, is the sort of discovery, which I can talk about later, but that's kind of what I like about Trolls to some extent. But anyway, before I got too off track, I don't know if you've ever seen like the Yata compilations or whatever, but
I don't think I have seen those.
Okay, Yata was like the Japanese. I think it's like the Japanese word for "I did it" or something like this.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm bad at Japanese. But like there were a lot of Japanese streamers and level makers back in Mario Maker 1, and like when you've been spending an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours trying to beat this one kaiso level, and then you finally get it. It was like this, this massive like rush of emotions, and so
Right.
many people would like scream and there was one Japanese streamer who would stream like Yatta, and it was just it was so fun, and it was so hype. And then so like a lot of the other streamers would have just these great pop off moments
The
when you finally
Yata
beat
moments.
the Yatta moments.
Yeah, that's a good point, bringing up like, obviously Mario Maker 2 is great and everything, but just like you said, that discovery period when you're just
Yeah.
everyone's finding new things, and yeah, that's a really good point. And like bringing that up, like if Nintendo did that for a different game, how cool those
That's always
first
my
few
favorite.
months would be.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
so fun.
really cool. When I interviewed Pooh, he was the first Legend of Mario that I interviewed. He says, and we kind of touched on Panga a little bit. He says that without Panga, a lot of Mario players probably wouldn't be where they are at today. Is that something like you agree with?
Super true. Yeah. So Panga released a series of things that are totally worth YouTubing to this day. That I think he made when he was like, I'm gonna get the age wrong, but he must have been like 12 or something like that, which just blows my brain. But it's a series called, wait, what was it? Item Abuse. Yeah, I think that was called that. Item Abuse 1, 2, and 3 especially. And they were like totally impossible things that they were Kaiser levels that were impossible unless you used a task. So like for these, you literally could not beat them. Nobody can beat them.
Right.
They've never been beaten, and they can't be beaten.
Right.
They can't be. But they were really cool videos to look at. And so what Panga did was he took the idea, the feeling of these like impossible challenges where you were jumping off of midair springs and shells and all of that, literally all the stuff that became classic Mario Kaizo. Panga was the first person to translate them to something that humans could actually do in Mario Maker. And all of Panga's original Kaizo levels were sort of demonstrations of that. And it sort of gave people the idea of, oh my gosh, you can do all of this cool stuff. And then everybody, riffed off of it and took it from there.
Right.
But definitely from like a streaming spectacle perspective, back then, anybody who was trying to beat those levels, it was like, they were, I can't remember the name of the like video game websites and journals or whatever. They were like covering like, the hardest level ever made and like all that stuff. And so there was like a lot of hype around that specific, like the Kaizo feat of clearing a really hard level.
Right.
And that was what brought a lot of viewers in, and brought a lot of just interest for streamers who wanted to do a cool challenge.
That's awesome. Yeah. I plan on interviewing Panga at some point if I can get him on. And I want to know if he even realizes, the impact he's had on so many
I'm
Mario
sure, I'm sure
players,
he
and he probably does. And
does.
he
I'm sure he
meeting Panga, he's like super chill. He's probably like, that's cool.
does. Yes.
He's, it's like, yeah, that's cool. uh,
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
like not a big deal at all to him. But
Yeah.
so what? I guess talking about Kaizo stuff, what made you like love? Like, what made you get into the kaizo scene? Like, what made you interested in trying to beat these really hard levels? Like, was there something that drew
Hmm.
you into that?
Yeah, definitely. I was sorry, my brain went a couple places, but I
No, you're
was
good.
just thinking about like I guess the beginning of Mario Maker. Remember like, the 100-man challenge and all
Mm-hmm.
that? Definitely like part of the initial job of I think as a viewer and as a streamer, because I would watch streams as well, was like seeing people do the 100 Mario challenge. And I'll get into the other side of it, which was the garbage. But the other side of that was like, there were often some really like, you'd be like, wait, how do you even beat this level? Like, what is the trick?
Yeah.
What is, and a lot of the time it was like a kaizo trick. And so in order to, it's so like, I had this, really strong interest in just like, how are people, I like discovering like, how are people doing this? Like, what is the trick behind this? How does it work? And kaizo is just a bunch of difficult tricks that are like, you have to know a lot about the game mechanics in order to figure out how they work. And so I enjoyed kind of learning about those game mechanics. I don't remember what your question.
No, that answered it. No, that answered it. You
Sweet.
answered the question.
Sweet.
Um,
Oh, but actually, wait. As far as the kaizo community goes, though, I will say that we, similar to what, see, this was sort of based off of like the old IRC races. So I'm glad that we're getting like the full story here,
right.
because remember back in the pre-Twitch days and the Yoshis Island days, we would go on IRC and we get a group of people together and we would race through something. And we tried to actually recreate that. One was at GDQ with the relay races. That was the recreation of that as
Right.
well. But another thing was in Mario Maker. I don't know if you ever participated or you ever heard about these, but we had something called the blind kaizo races.
I'm
Um,
familiar with them. I wasn't
okay,
streaming on Twitch it, but I watched that. Yeah.
okay. I think it must have been on Discord at this point, but I can't even remember when Discord came out. Maybe this was pre-Discord and we were on Ventrilo or TeamSpeak or something. But the blind kaizo races were like, we were like, wait, what if we have somebody in the community make a kaizo level and then all the streamers who want to will all race it at the same time? And this was like, when the B721 and
Yeah.
like a lot of these big kaizo streamers were like first kind of getting, first starting to stream.
Right.
um and yeah, so we would do that every week, and it was extremely fun. And I honestly miss stuff like that. One of the reasons that I've been trying to pitch to you to like do the the troll races is like, I love having weekly community events.
Yeah.
I was always the one who would organize these. Like, I'm the one who organized it for GDQ, and then like the blind kaizo race and all of that. And I had a lot of like personal stuff that happened over the last few years, which sort of like made me get out of that. But again, this is kind of off topic, but it's kind of something that I've always really liked about streaming, and I'm hoping to get back into more.
Absolutely. And I think the race at GDQ like kindled a lot of people's
Yes.
fires,
Yes.
which is really exciting because
Oh my god, I'm so salty by the way, because literally from the very first GDQ, the very first Mario Maker thing, there's like all this negativity. Like, there's so many people who are like, it's not a speed run,
Right.
it's not gonna, you can't have 8 people on the thing. Like, there's like always, everybody's like, why it's not gonna work, and it always is freaking fun because
yeah.
getting a bunch of friends together and playing something is a fun experience.
It's
always
not to
will
take
be.
away from any of the other runs because every single run's amazing, but
Yeah.
you could argue that the most fun, jovial, hype moments come from those races every
Exactly.
time.
I'm happy that a lot of people eventually have come around to that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Do you have any memory? Like, is there a level that sticks out in your mind? It could even be from a ROM hack or Mario Maker 1 or 2. Is there like a level in your mind that's like, this was the hardest level I've ever completed? Is there a level that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah. So I'll give you 2 answers. One is the one that I have made that took the longest, and um that was a level that I made called Brain Power. That took me like 35 hours or something like that to
Oh
clear.
gosh.
That was the longest that I've ever spent playing a level that I made, like my own
Right.
level. Um Yeah, that one was so just as a fun little throwback, by the way, that level was directly inspired by item abuse, Panga's hacks. I went and I rewatched those item abuse videos, and then I specifically tried to recreate moments from them
Oh my
in that level.
gosh.
Um, and so just to kind of bring that back. But the hardest level that I ever, because there's plenty of hard levels that I never beat.
Right,
So
right. Same here.
yeah. I don't know. Do you want the ones that I actually beat, or
Yeah,
like
I
spent the
mean, give
most
me
time
whatever.
on?
Yeah, the ones that you beat, and maybe one that you never actually beat, but you think it was
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah. Let's see. So in Mario Maker 1 is when I played the most kaiso related stuff for sure. Um, and the hardest level of somebody else's, well, I beat like all of Panga's original stuff. My favorite, as I mentioned, was Bomb Voyage, but it
Yeah.
wasn't the hardest. Probably the easy answer is P Break.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Just because P Break was like, it was like the biggest, most popular, hardest level at the beginning of Mario Maker.
Right.
And it's funny because like by today's standards, somebody like Thab could pull it up and probably beat it in like 30 minutes or something.
Right.
But it took like dozens of hours back then.
Right.
That was
Right.
so hard.
Right.
Yeah. There's probably other ones that I played that were
I mean,
harder.
you've played a lot of Mario Maker levels. It's so hard when people ask me like what
Yeah.
my favorite level is. I know how hard.
Oh, I
that is to
actually have good
answer.
answers for that, but it's only because I have good answers for that, but it's only because I've been asked it so many times. I've thought about it multiple times. This is hard because it's Mario Maker 1, and I didn't really play Kaizo in Mario Maker 2. Yeah. Lately, the hardest thing I did was to beat Grand Pool World 3, which was a ROM hack, and yeah, it's extreme.
I dedicated a 2-hour stream to Grand Poo World 3.
Did you beat the first level? 'Cause I feel like...
don't think I got the
Yeah.
checkpoint.
Yeah.
So I understand it being difficult.
Oh my god. Yeah. My girlfriend was like, I'm gonna try to get the first checkpoint. And she has never played a single Kaizo level in her life, probably hadn't played Super Mario World in, I don't know, several years. And she did it. And it took like 3 hours.
Oh my gosh. Well, she surpassed me, so now I got to get back on it. Okay, so looking back, so I went back through your levels that you uploaded in Mario Maker.
Oh no.
And from what I can tell, this could be wrong, but I think your very first level that you uploaded in Mario Maker was a level called Trust Issues.
Yep, that was it.
Do you remember this, and like what was your inspiration
So I had been working on a Yoshi's Island ROM hack, and this is something that I've always wanted to do, and I don't know why nobody's done. Dave, maybe we could do it. I don't know. These are big projects that are like, it's like so obvious and so funny, and like I really want them to exist, but nobody's done it. And it's just to take the vanilla game from any of your favorite games and add trolls to it. So like there's been a bunch of Super Mario World trolls, but nobody's taken vanilla Super Mario World and made stuff with it. So I was doing this with Yoshi's Island. And the day that Mario Maker came out, I was like, wait, this is so much easier to do in Mario Maker. And like I had all of the terrible ideas, the stuff that has just become a staple of hot garbage. Like you put all the power-ups, all the shinies in a little pit, and you wall it off with hidden blocks. And I was sitting on my couch the day I got Mario Maker, just laughing my ass off. Like, they're going to follow the coin trail into this and they can't get out. Like, it's just pure trash. And it's like, oh, they're never going to see all of these off-screen clumps.
Right.
And like, oh, you can put Bowser in a level. You could stack Bowsers. Let's stack all the Bowsers. And you open a door and it's just stacked Bowsers. And that was that level. And it was just the epitome of all of the garbage that eventually became Mario Maker. And I had all the same terrible ideas as everybody else.
It just brings me immense joy imagining you sitting on a couch devising these trolls. I'm just sitting here smiling, dude.
I have a great memory of that too, because somebody like rebuilt that level block for block. I think it was in Mario Maker 2, but I honestly can't remember. And they gave it to me and I didn't know what it was going to be. And I ended up playing it. And then I literally fell for my own troll. Like I hit my own kaiso block in my own level like 7 years later with just completely forgotten about it.
That is amazing.
Oh
That
my
is so
gosh.
good. So I guess we'll talk more about trolls in a second, but when you approach level creation, I mean, I'm sure it's evolved over time. You've made a lot of levels, from the start of Mario Maker to Mario Maker 2. Do you feel like you need to be inspired to create a level? And is your building process like, do you like to start to finish or work on pieces, different sections at a time? Like, what is your building process like for
Yeah.
making levels?
At first, I definitely get inspired for like, oh, a troll level would be really good right now, or like a kaiser level would be really good, and then I'll sort of be specific. Like, for instance, when the Link power up came out, I was like, oh, I felt this sense of inspiration because it was like that moment again where all the tech is new,
Yeah,
and you don't know what you can discover new things, and so I made a Link kaiser level I really loved. That might have been my only kaiser
that
level in
level's
Mario Maker
insane, by the
2.
way.
Thank you. I can't remember if I made any other Kaiser levels, but yeah. So I start with just the general premise of the idea, like it's going to be a Link Kaiser level, or it's going to like I'm working on a ROM hack troll level right now, and so I definitely start with just the general inspiration, but then everything is a giant like I'll do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, and then I'll be like, oh, but I suddenly got inspiration over here. And so it's a giant jumble of pieces that I sort of begin working on each of the pieces. And then I will be like, oh, this is the one that makes the most sense to start with. Like this is going to make somebody laugh for a troll level. This is going to make somebody laugh in the first 5 seconds. So I'm going to start with that one because
Right.
I want someone to laugh right away playing a troll level. And so that's what I'll put as the first thing. And then I'll be like, oh, it makes sense to put this here. And then I'll start stitching stuff together, and I'll be constantly changing them while I'm stitching them together. So I think one of the most essential parts about this is once I've stitched enough pieces together, I'll get a playtester. And if you're trying to make a game, you're trying to do anything, you're trying to write a paper, you're trying to do any sort of a project, like get somebody else's eyes on it
Right.
because you have creator blindness. I don't care what it is. This happens in science. It happens in writing. It happens in making games and levels. And because somebody will do something that you never thought was possible, you never thought to do.
Right.
And so I will watch a video of somebody playing through my section, and I'll be like, oh, that didn't go the way I wanted. How can I make that section go the way I wanted it to go? Oh, that didn't go the way I wanted. Or it's like, oh, this was unexpected and better. Maybe I can lean into that and like expand that section to emphasize this thing that ended up being really cool. And so it's this iterative process of building all these pieces, then stitching the pieces together, then going back through them and creating more pieces, deleting the pieces that didn't work, altering the ones that try to make them work. And then I'll send it to playtesters again. And when the playtesters have gone through it that next time, and then I'll realize like, okay, when I first did it, maybe 50% of the things went the way I wanted. And then like after one round of iteration and playtesting and then whatever, going through it again, then I'll be like, okay, 80% of the things landed. Now we're getting somewhere. And then like 90% and whatever. And there are levels where I've like continued to do that process more, and ones where I've continued to do that process less. Because it like, again, it takes like weeks and it takes like
Right.
so much. It's like an entire job. And that's one of the downsides of like a lot of the creative sides of streaming, because like if you just stream, this could be a giant separate discussion, but like I would love to be able to do more of that stuff, but then it's like I have spent the last week, by myself in a level editor and like in Discord DMs, like trying to do something, and I haven't streamed once, and I
Right.
haven't, put out a single video. And when it's all said and done, it's like 100 hours of work, and I've produced one video that,
Right.
it's just not like
Yeah.
viable to do that all the time. So I try
Right.
to do that stuff like maybe once a year, but yeah. But anyway, that's the process. And for levels, I don't know if we want to get into specifics, but
I was gonna ask you if you have a favorite level that you built, and
it's,
it better not be please just do better, because
I was going to say that's an example of a level that I just like sat down and I just pooped out in like 2 hours in one sitting. And then I modified it once and I didn't get a single playtester. So Yeah,
I often get asked what my
and it
favorite level
shows.
is. Often ask it what my favorite level is, and I don't have an answer. But when people ask me what my least favorite level is, I do have an answer for that,
Yeah.
and it's always that level.
That one was specifically designed to aggravate Cook. And the most ridiculous part about this, just to I guess like a flex for Juz, is like I think he beat it in 45 minutes.
Oh
then,
my gosh!
Like I literally was like, I need to make this harder. Like,
Meanwhile, 6 hours later in a ripped shirt, I'm just like ready to run through a wall.
Some people took 15 hours. Like,
oh my gosh.
That is another aspect of level design that I guess I could talk about real quick, and that is the target audience. Because you can make a level that, like, again, like someone like Thab will be like, yeah, it was fun. You know, I beat it in 15 minutes.
Right.
And then somebody else will rage quit 10 hours later because, like, they are just not familiar with that.
Right.
And they're not going to enjoy it and they're going to hate it. And so making a level that everybody likes is basically impossible. But what you can do, I found, is just ensure that whatever you're like, just to think about what is your target audience, who is it? Like, if I'm making a troll level back when Geek used to play, like I wouldn't emphasize certain aspects of level design that I might ask that like, you know, somebody like Shoujo might really enjoy. And so just knowing your target audience is really important, and making sure that you're like making it something that's appropriate for that target audience.
That's
and
really
also
good advice, yeah.
And also being upfront about like, you know, do not play this unless XYZ. Yeah, like some people hate troll levels because they don't understand them, and they're like playing, you know, 3 metas deep into a level that like they don't understand, but they may have loved the troll level if they just played the right one that was actually the right one for them.
100%. I 100% agree with that. And speaking of troll levels, like, do you have a memory of like the first troll level that you played?
Yeah, I mean, again, this was going back to that 100-man super expert hot garbage where, like, you know, the very beginning was just, oh, I'm following the coins. Hey, the coins took me into a pit, you devious snake. Like, that was the birth of Mario Maker trolls, was just the hot garbage where people would fool you in 100-man. But then the first times that I remember somebody putting all of that together into, like, an actually good level, you've got to point to 7 Trolly pieces. Or no, what was it? Was it called 7? Gosh, I've like, there've been so many iterations.
The one where the ending was available from the start? Is that the one?
Yeah, okay. Don't ask me why I have this. Somebody DM'd me this recently. On September 6th, 2016, which is basically 1 year after the game came out, 7 Trolly pieces was uploaded by somebody named Drac, or Draculantern. And that was like a red coin room, or a series of red coin rooms that was like kaiso blocks everywhere, misleading coin trails, like all of the classic hot garbage from Super Expert. And the key troll of that level was that it looked like you needed to go through and get all the red coins to go into a key door to beat the level. And in reality, the flag was hidden behind a track. And so the flag was on the main screen with all of the like pipes and doors that would lead you to other sections, and you could just walk into it without doing anything in the level. You just open the level and walk into the goal and beat it. And that was the first, like, because you probably know this, Dave, that like the ending troll, you know, the surprise at the end has been like a staple of troll levels for so long.
Right.
This was the origin of the surprise at the end. 7 Trolly pieces.
That's so cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that was like the one that got it started.
Yep. I have to do a mention also for, so if you look at like troll-ish levels, honestly, after that, a lot of it is just my own trash. Like a level called A Dish Best Served Mold, which is like, by today's standards, it's like a garbage cryptic puzzle level. And that was like the idea of trolling, because it would like, you know, it would trick people. Like you would go through this section and you would find a P-switch, and then you would see an area where you need a P-switch, and you would like spend 30 minutes trying to get the P-switch, only to realize that when you took it to the next section, the blocks that looked like P-switch blocks or like they look like turn blocks, had something in them, and they don't actually turn into that, and there's some other cryptic solution,
Right,
and it's
right.
like you got trolled, but it was like bad, like
Right,
it was,
right,
it
right.
was bad. It was not fun to play, and that was how trolling was, I think, until about 2017. When levels like Rolling and Trolling by Dan the Tank,
Okay.
that was like you here's the place to go stand, and then a fish like gets rapid shot from a cannon off screen and hits you for standing there. Like very classic
Right.
trolls that are not even like they're kind of taken for granted now, but
Right.
just it was more like the slapstick comedy, like you go here, something crazy falls on your head. And it was like one step above just off-screen thwomps and puzzly garbage
Right. Right.
and
Right.
misleading chord trails. But I would say the first level that was like actually modern, well-made trolls might be something like Sorry Juzz by I Say or IK. Um, I don't know if you've seen the. Do you remember this one, Dave? There was a troll where there were a bunch of pipes lined up in a row,
Yes. Yes.
and one of them was a pipe uh, power up, or I don't know what you call it,
Y-
costume, a
Yeah, yeah,
pipe costume.
yeah. That was like with the amiibo costumes.
Yeah, with the Aviva. That's like one of the. I don't know what the actual first one is, but that's one of the very first. Like, that's just funny. Like, it's not brutal. It's
Right.
not horrible. It's not an off-screen thwomp. It is like using the game for comedy, and I think that's like the birth of modern trolls. And what I personally like the most about troll levels these days is like that's the one I would point to. There may be one that came first, but that's the one I remember.
That was one of the first troll levels I ever played, actually. The Sorry Jets one.
Yeah, I love that
That's
one.
so funny. So did you love them at first, or was there a point like, oh man, I don't like this, and then you came to love them, or were you just
No,
like
I mean, I
hooked?
was making them the whole time.
That's
Like, I was
true.
making
That's true. Your
trash
first
just
level uploaded.
yeah, and then the ones that I made after that, like the biggest night of my career was when I made for Pooh.
Right.
That like it was like it has all the elements of modern trolling, but it also has the kaiso influence that I came from before that. Where like it would be difficult platforming, and then like you would do a shell jump, and then suddenly you would go into a pipe, but your P switch blocked on the other side, so it would push you back out. And then you're gonna fall and die, so you need to go back in the pipe, and you go back in and out of this pipe while the P switch timer like excruciatingly slowly counts down for 5 minutes in order to get through the section. And so it was like a surprise troll, but it still had the element of like Kaizo garbage.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And it wasn't until we did the so in the vein of that, like I mentioned before, the blind Kaiser relay race, we started to do a troll contest, level design contest. And that was where a lot of the like people who became the big troll makers later on in Mario Maker 1 and even some in Mario Maker 2, that was kind of what started off like the idea of the well-made troll level. There were people like Hack a Cat who were making
Mhm.
levels for that, and that's when people started discovering like the launchers, the launcher tech, and like the clown car tech, where like launchers can just suddenly fly around on the screen or like carry you, into an area that you don't want to go to, or like drop out from under you when you try to jump on them. All the classic trolls were kind of invented during that time, and that's kind of where it went and
That's
became all the wonderful goodness
oh
that we
man,
know
it's
today.
just it's I don't know. I love troll levels. Mainly, one of the biggest things I love is like the psychological aspect where when
Yeah.
you start to overthink, really it's
Yeah.
super simple, or I love that basically I'm not even in control. Like the creator is
Yeah.
like manipulating me. And I just find it so fascinating. I just am fascinated with the psychological side of
Yeah.
troll levels.
I wish I could remember the person's name. I feel bad, but one of them was Juju Stum or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
He made a level called like Carl Psychological Planes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. But there might have been that might be the wrong level, and I might be mixing creators, and it's like a long time ago. But like the first time I got tricked into going back into a pipe that I had already been in that I didn't want to, like it just tricked me. Oh my gosh, like those were just such classic and fun troll moments.
Right.
And some of those were the ones that did that. But there was another person, and I wish I could remember their name, that really kind of pioneered the more psychological side of trolls. Federico, aka Paulo, or many different names, was definitely like someone who's still around who was
Right.
from that time as well, who did that.
Right. Is there, I mean, obviously not trying to pick favorites because there's just been so many great troll levels over the years, but is there, a couple in your mind that really stick out as like, I mean, I think
Yeah.
these are my favorite that I've
Yeah,
played?
I'll point to like five or whatever, and of course, like I'm going to leave out a lot,
Right.
like standard restrictions apply, et cetera, et cetera. Like I love all troll makers. It's been
Right.
amazing. The one that you have to give credit for me personally, is Symplectic, and especially Laurel does everything twice, twice, because this was the first level that ever created a twice, twice, which is the situation where you're in an area and you go through it and you get trolled, but then you think that you're in that area again at some point later in the level, but it's actually a different area that just happens to look the same. And so something that you've like troll levels are all about violating your expectations in funny ways. And in a twice twice, you have already had your expectations violated in a section that looks like this, but then suddenly it's doing something different, and it's almost like the creator is like editing the level live or something. Like that's what it felt like the very first time that I
Right.
played it, without realizing that you're just in a cloned room. And so that was just like a really really powerful troll idea. And I actually, to this day, I don't know how the end of that level even works. If you haven't seen the end of that level recently, it is like it's mind blowing to this day, even to me. So I have to give a huge shout out to Symplectic for like inventing a genre. Um, Another couple examples I point to. My personal favorite troll of all time was actually from a Mario Maker 2 level by Shay, um, called House of Spooks, I think 3. And it's a troll where you're on a skull platform, that you're just like, you get on a skull platform and it takes off and it takes you on a ride, and you're just waiting for something to happen. And you're just like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Here comes the troll, but nothing ever happens. And you're not even moving. You thought that the skull platform was moving, but it's literally not even moving. It's just standing still. And there's stuff on conveyors, like there's stuff that's moving past you, but
Right.
it's really on conveyors below you and just being recycled. And so it's just this illusion that you were ever moving in the first place.
Right.
And it got me so hard. So that one was I point to that one as my favorite just because it's so unique. But I could list 7,000 more, like the end of Carl's trash can. Um, it's just
There's so
a
many
lot.
good ones, and like
Yeah.
it's so hard to that's something that's hard for me when people ask me like what's your favorite troll level, and it's like I've been fortunate to play so many good. I mean, I've played some bad ones too. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I've played so many good ones. It's hard to like for me to just select one.
Yeah,
There's
I
just been
just
so
I
many
just
good.
pick a few nice moments, but it's totally true that like there've been so many really good ones. Um, I loved all of Super Wagon World is a more
Oh, that
recent
was
example.
amazing. Super Wagon World.
Um, I sometimes like the really silly trolls the most. There's a level in Super Wagon World where it was called like slopes in Mario Maker, which was kind of like a play on the fact that in Mario Maker 1 you didn't have slopes.
Yeah.
So they introduced them in Mario Maker 2. There was a and so they just made these like really silly looking things that were kind of like slopes, like a whole bunch of wigglers stacked like slightly offset, and you could actually climb up it like a slope. But then for one of them, like it's just the stupidest thing. It was literally just they had all these slopes, and then they made a slope out of the background texture. Like it's not even in the level. It's not even in the level. And then I'm like, oh my god, this is the stupidest thing. Like whatever, who's gonna do this? And then I just jumped past that section, and there's a kaiso block there that I didn't think about because there had never been a kaiso in the whole level,
Right.
and it was just yeah. So just trolls like that are just the
Oh
funniest
yeah,
thing to me.
sometimes the simple one, like you have to love and enjoy like the really complex setups, but sometimes those
Yeah.
simple ones are just oh man, they just you have to sit back and be like that was good.
Yeah.
That was
Huge
amazing.
shout outs to Potato Chan for and Tuda, two of the the geniuses of simple trolls.
Yep, Potato was actually the first. Potato made me a level, and that
Yep.
was the first troll level I've ever played. And I did not expect the journey to be on the journey that I've been on after playing that one level.
Yeah. You've never tried to make a troll level, have you?
I have dabbled, but it's
hard.
I was actually making one for my wife, and I just slowly was descending into madness.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so evil. It brings out an evil side of me. I'm like, I don't know if I like this.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
I need to
That is
finish
how
that.
it always begins.
Okay, I just have just a couple questions left. Like everyone knows, obviously your love of science. Do you feel like your love of science and the science mindset that you have, has it affected like how you play and look at games, especially like Mario Maker? Like analytically, do you look at things a certain way with your science brain?
Absolutely. I guess a couple comments on that. Like a lot of people associate science with being very analytical, and sometimes like this sort of like emotionless logic or whatever. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm like not like that at all, right?
Right.
And so it's actually kind of like a contrast, I think, when people like kind of stop and think about it to some extent. But what I enjoy about science and what I enjoy about kind of what I was talking about before with like the discovery aspect of
Right.
kaiso levels, like when the tech is first invented, or like with troll levels, is actually more of the like, it's more of like a surprise or like a feeling of discovery. And like I enjoy digging into systems and being like I like if I it's like I see something cool, and then I kind of, the follow up from that is like, can I make it cooler?
Right.
Why is it cool? Like what makes it work? Like in Mario Maker, an analogy would be like, wait, like, okay, if I put these two launchers next to each other and like a note block hits one of them into each other, they like overlap and then one goes flying out. And I'm like, can I put something on the end of that launcher when it goes and flies out? Can it like shoot a spring? Or like a kaiso mindset would be, can it shoot me and then I can move really fast and do a cool trick at like hyperspeed? And so that's what it's like for me. And the science is the exact same way. It's like I want to experiment with things that are cool in order to see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that I enjoy about level making. I enjoy about playing a new game when it's like a new system, and what I enjoy about doing science work in the lab.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And I think knowing that and seeing how excited you get when new discoveries are made in Mario Maker, and then you like start making levels and stuff. It's really cool to see that passion come out. At least for me, I love seeing that.
And then the follow up to that also is like, it's cool in and of itself, but it's especially cool if it makes other people laugh, because something I love the most about troll levels is like, and I'm sure you can potentially relate to this too, but like when I have something stressful going on, or when things are going well in life or whatever, it's so nice to have like something that you can turn to that is just it's like a reprieve from that. It's something that makes you laugh.
Right.
And I love that about troll levels. Like they sort of bring joy to many people.
Absolutely.
And on the science side of things, it's like, this is really cool, and also maybe one day it will help somebody. And that's like, I think the combination of those two things are what I love the most. Like it's interesting, it's cool to me, and so it's exciting, and it has all this potential like to either help somebody or even just to make somebody laugh and bring them a few moments of joy. So those are the things that I like the most.
I love that. That's fantastic. So I guess the last question then, it's hard to top that, because that's like a great ending. But where do you see troll levels and like Mario, the future of Mario? Do you think we'll get a Mario Maker 3? And you know that question, you get it every stream, I'm sure.
The moment sorry, do you want to add anything else to that, or was that it?
No, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
The moment that I like in my heart accepted that Mario Maker 2 was never going to happen, it was announced like that week. And so maybe I need to just completely give up on Mario Maker 3, and then it will actually happen. But
you'll have to let me know when you make that decision, because then I'll be like, all right, it's coming.
Yeah. I'm what I want to see is I want to see what their new console is and when that's
Right.
coming out, and I want to see the releases for that because I wouldn't be surprised if they release like I don't know, like an Odyssey 2 or like some kind of a 3D Mario game
Right.
that's
I
just
think
a 3D
that's
Mario game.
probably because Mario Odyssey came out in like 2017.
Yeah, it's been
That's a
forever.
long time without
And-
a new 3D Mario game. So
yeah, and the Switch is like kind of like, I love the Switch. It's my favorite Nintendo console since I was a kid. Gosh, the Wii U. Oh. But I have my Wii U sitting. I have my Wii U sitting right here. It's like, gosh, what are they thinking?
What
But
were they
anyway,
thinking?
so I'm like I'm massively pessimistic that they will
Yeah.
ever release a Mario Maker 3, but not I have not given up all hope completely.
It's
I
not
want
the
to see. I
hope
want to
is
wait and
not
see what
dead
happens.
yet.
The hope is not dead yet, so it's
Okay,
not coming out.
okay, let me just last thing then. If you could see like one thing added, obviously if there's a Mario Maker 3, it's going to be wildly different. There's going to be a lot added. But like what would be one thing you would want to see added?
It's so hard to pick
I
because
know.
I will take anything. I'll just re-release Mario Maker 2 and call it Mario Maker 3, and the hype that it will bring will like
Mhm.
revitalize the community because that's
True.
what makes these games great is the community.
Right.
And just the fact that they are bringing everybody together for something that goes such a long way. But if I had to pick, I love baby Yoshis and different colored Yoshis, and I feel
that'd
like
be
they were
cool.
super underutilized. I want baby Yoshis that can grow into big Yoshis. I want the yellow stomping Yoshi from Super Mario World. I want the flying blue Yoshi from Super Mario World. I would love to see more Yoshi stuff.
I think that's a
Um,
great answer.
I'd also love to see more power ups and just everything.
Who
Like
said something that was like I thought was kind of intriguing, and I agree with him. He said he wants more music options,
yeah,
and
me
I
too.
agree. Like after you've played Mario Maker for
Yeah,
thousands of hours, like hearing the
yeah.
same music, it's like give me something else.
And this is a bit of a tangent, but I think the thing that's like kind of saved or in some ways popularized the Super Mario World ROM hack community. There's always been this like parallel to Mario Maker of just build your own Mario. The thing that they discovered that turned it from more of a niche hobby to something that is like actually quite popular, I think, is the ability to play custom music in your levels. And what's important is the music doesn't stop when you die. So
Right.
if you're playing like a kaiso level or a long level, you like let's say Mario dies, you get a retry screen and the music still continues. It doesn't stop. There's no death jingle that plays. And if you play retry and you go back into the level, the music still hasn't stopped this whole time. And there's definitely something to be said for like good sound design and like having a nice experience of just being able to actually listen to a song and
Right.
also being able to change the song. So yeah, I would love more sound and music options. And of course, instead, what Mario Maker gets for sound, right, is like,
Yeah.
like it's
Cat
all
paw.
the yeah. Oh my god, that's what we get instead.
Oh my gosh. Well, that concludes my questions. I'm gonna open the floor to you if there's anything you want to like, if you have any upcoming projects you want to talk about or anything like that. If not, that's okay too.
Kitty's circling me. I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. This was so much fun, Dave, and
I
for being
cannot thank you enough for being
wonderful.
on here, man. Like this is this is a dream come true. We were talking a little bit before I started recording. Just I love hearing people's stories and this Legends of Mario series, which I hope to do more episodes. But it gives not only me an insight, but others an insight into like your inspirations and things like that. And I'm just super appreciative of you being on here.
Yay, I'm super appreciative of you doing this and for being such a great streamer and person in the Mario community for so long.
Wow.
You're the best, Dave.
No, you're the best. No, you're the best.
No,
And
you're the
I would
best.
love to do some I'd love to do some troll races with you very soon.
Yay.
And
yeah, that's been
we'll
fun.
get that going. And that wraps up the interview with Carl, and I just have to say it was a pure joy to be able to sit down and have that conversation with Carl, hearing his story, his inspirations, and things like that. So just again, huge thank you to Carl. If by chance you're not following his Twitch channel or subscribe to his YouTube channel, be sure to do that because Carl is legitimately one of my favorite people that I've gotten to know. through streaming and YouTube and stuff like that. He has been a huge inspiration for me, and I'm so thankful for him. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. If you have any ideas of who you'd like to see next on the Legends of Mario interview series, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to make it happen. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, take care.